Welcome to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Jean-Luc Ramdin, who is a sales and training analyst at Cherokee Acquisition. And we're going to discuss Cherokee Acquisition's different services as it relates to bankruptcies in the crypto industry. Jean-Luc, great to have you on.
Thank you. Appreciate being on.
Jean-Luc, Cherokee has a pretty unique service that you're offering to many of the folks affected by the bankruptcies in the crypto industry, such as FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, and much more. Can you tell us about Cherokee Acquisition and the different services that you provide?
Sure. So Cherokee Acquisition and Claims Market, we're a specialized investment bank, and we work with Chapter 11 bankruptcy claims specifically in the crypto cases such as FTX, Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, Genesis. And we simply offer creditors immediate liquidity within those cases.
So let's say I was an FTX user, and let's say I had $100,000 in funds stuck on FTX. And of course, FTX collapsed and going through the trial right now in the bankruptcy proceedings. I can't access my funds. So Cherokee can come and buy that. How would you phrase that? That lien, so to speak, or that amount? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, sure. So, the main sort of source of Cherokee is our curated marketplace, where we trade those claims to over 40 onboarded buyers who are institutional funds, hedge funds, things of that nature. And they simply compete and bid for that claim. And therefore it gets the seller the best price because there's competition. And the buyers are also happy because there's a pool of claims that they can then seek to purchase.
So walk us through the thought process of, let's say I'm assuming I don't want to wait for this whole bankruptcy process, but I need to have the money. I can use Cherokee Acquisition and the marketplace to get some money or liquidity, right, for those claims, right? Is that just behind it?
Yeah, 100%. FTX, the petition date was November the 11th, 2022. And of course, nobody is aware of when the case is going to end or when distributions will occur, which are likely to be multiple distributions in segments down the line. So, as a creditor, maybe you have $1 million claim and you're like, well, I need to pay for certain expenses, whether it's with the business or individually, or maybe you say to yourself that you'd rather reinvest that liquidity back into the crypto market. And so you'd prefer a slight discount to take the funds now rather than wait however many years to get a percentage that truthfully nobody knows what percentage that will be from the debtor.
Yeah, and to your point, no one knows, and there's so many complications involved in it because also it depends on what the liquidation price is for the said assets, right? Because they pool it all together and they may sell it in increments. We don't know when or where and what's your cut, right? And there's such a long line of creditors, when will you be your turn? But using your service, I can, get some returns at least, or some of my money returned in a way. So tell us about the folks who are buying these claims and why would they do that? I think that's going to be a big question for folks.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's fairly simple. There's some distressed debt hedge funds out there, and they simply see a potential investment opportunity, which obviously they take the risk of the upside and they take the risk of the downside when distributions come. So I think some creditors have the understanding that, oh, well, if people are buying claims, then automatically that means that the distribution from the debtor is going to be significantly higher as what the prices I'm getting now, but that isn't always the case. It's an investment like in anything else. But I think the good thing for creditors is that this is an option for them. And, often you might have one or two buyers coming in, but the great benefit with claims market is that our over 40 onboarded buyers, they've already signed documentation to purchase claims if they were to purchase claims at the listed price on our platform, then they have to pay within 48 hours business days. So I think that's very, very good, because that way it's not sort of like a eBay marketplace where you're just sort of, here's my claim, I'm selling it, you get bids, you reject it. The good thing about it is that the price that you list at is that desired price. So if you do not get bid that price, there's no obligation to sell, which is the benefit. However, if you do get bid at the price you listed at, then there's the obligation to, of course, receive liquidity at the price you asked for within 2 days.
Yeah, and I could certainly see a lot of folks using your service, because there are many folks who had lost funds at Celsius. Some I know personally, some I've read about, and even with FTX and so forth, they lost their funds. So this is a great option to at least restore some of that those funds. Can you show us the marketplace and the process to get this going?
Of course, yeah, no problem. This is Claims Market. As you can see on our website, we have our pricing transparently displayed there, as well as our transaction history. So I think it's a number around about over 125 million or over 130 million sold in crypto claims in the past year, which is pretty incredible. So you can see that when the claim was listed and when they were sold, and usually it's within a few days. So I think from a creditor's standpoint, they're not listing their claim up for multiple weeks in something that is binding. They get to list their claim and receive bids sometimes in the same day or very soon. And I think that's a very, very good benefit. And then our pricing, FTX claims, is sort of generic for large claims. It's between 50 and 53%. But of course, pricing can slightly rise depending on the size of the claim, or slightly fall. And it's also dependent upon preference risk. And that is something which, a concept not many creditors are aware of, but simply preference is a bankruptcy rule where it's stated that any withdrawals within a 90-day period, in FTX specifically 10-day period before bankruptcy, is deemed as property of the estate. So what that means is, if you are a net withdrawer 10 days before November the 11th, then that affects the claim price slightly.
Got it. That makes sense. So now let's say I have $500,000, right, stuck on FTX. I can claim it. I can go on here and I can say, hey, can I get at least 450,000? Right. I could ask that, right? Now, let's say a buyer comes in and they bid $400,000 instead, right? And I can accept that bid. And how would the payment and all these things be processed?
Sure. So the payment is usually in USD, to a bank wire transfer. However, there is the option for a crypto listing to receive payment in stablecoin, but that slightly can reduce buyer demand or the pool of investors, simply because not everybody has the facilities to do so. But listing at a reasonable price is something that is in conversation and with the seller, and that is why we have this bid or ask spread, because of course our role is to ensure that the seller can get the best price, and also the buyer has an even and equal opportunity as other buyers as well.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about your fees and that process. I'm assuming you, as the broker, so to speak, you're getting a respective fee, and what's that amount?
Sure, and that's the great thing about it. There's no fees to the sellers. Only a fee from the buyer side. So that is a big positive, because that way, of course, creditors have already lost some level of funds, and so we wouldn't want them to then lose more. And so there's no fees from the seller side, which is why really it's just upside to have your claim listed, and especially with, as you can see, the sort of speed of transactions occurring from listing to being sold is fairly fast as well. So yeah, I think that's a great positive.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm glad that, like you said, there's no fees to the seller, just the buyer, which is more on the hedge funds side and things like that. They can afford it, right? So in addition to FTX, are there other bankruptcy cases that are still active, like Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, and so forth?
For sure, yes. So, even though Celsius is coming to a close slightly, there are still some claims being traded because people would still like liquidity. And Genesis still active, BlockFi, and of course FTX, which is the main one, just because there's so many creditors. I think there's over 1.3 million out there who honestly most may not even know this is an option. So it's really, we believe in transparency and we believe in education. That's why we have our Twitter page, which is active, putting out information out there, and that is why our pricing is transparent on our website. And just to mention as well, our documents are as well. So the simple assignment of claim, as you scroll down here, is a document which sellers sign with their crypto assets based upon petition date, the pricing they'll receive, and the percentage. So that's something that people can publicly view and review, which is great. And we also have our company video here as well, to just get an insight into, I guess, the environment and the people working at the office. So we definitely believe in transparency and providing the most amount of information to creditors.
That's great. And is your service available worldwide, or is it just US users?
Yeah, worldwide. So, honestly, most sellers are domiciled outside of the US. And so being in another country, it doesn't affect the price of your claim or anything like that. Maybe there's one or two countries that could make things a little bit more difficult, but besides that, that's absolutely no problem at all.
Oh, that's great. This is a great service, and I think it will help a lot of people who, they're stuck and unfairly so because of what took place in the crypto industry last year and all of these bankruptcies. And like I said, I know a lot of people, even some neighbors who, like, for example, I know one neighbor has some funds stuck in Voyager, so I'm going to let him know about this. This is a great service and can really bring relief to a lot of people. So Jean-Luc, so with all this said, with the overview of how the service works and so forth, tell us about the folks who are listening who want to go sign up and, go through the process from A to Z.
Yeah, sure. So it's very simple. You can simply sign up through the website, and depending on your claim size, there'll be different pricing. But the main thing is really to send some form of information so we can review that claim, which in FTX's case, the unique customer code from Crow is very useful, because that way we can search your claim up in the Schedule F document and source the exact size of your claim from petition date. And also as well, having the KYC sent to us is the screenshot of that approval in the portal is very useful as well, simply because then we know that KYC has been approved or at least partially approved, so we can move forward. And one of the documents is the SAC, Simple Assignment of Claim, and that is very, very useful. And it's simply stating the percentage that you'll receive and the claim size. And then once that is signed from the seller's side, that way we can collect a couple of more docs, list that claim, and package that up for the buyers to view in the best way. So we do some form of diligence, of course, to make sure everything is correct with the calculations and that the documentation is provided. I think the great thing is that we can help get claims listed very, very fast times span. So usually within 1 to 2 days, we can have everything ready to be listed, which is very useful.
Oh, that's great. That's a fast turnaround time. Well, folks, links will be in the description to go check out Cherokee Acquisition and this service. And, it could certainly help you all in getting back some of your funds, which, may be locked on FTX and other crypto platforms. Jean-Luc, great stuff. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.